Okay, it is live. Okay, so we just had to go through the two different case studies and then talk about kind of the code of ethics and how they fit in with them and answer the 5 questions.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to start out with the first case study or?
Yeah, I'm pulling everything. It'll take me just a second.
Okay. So the first one was about the guy or the family that was from Somalia. I'm not sure how to say that country.
Oh, the Somalians.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Somalian ones. And the little kid like can't play in the kitchen because the dad won't let him, and the mom's kind of reserved and won't say a whole lot.
Okay, I'm just reading over it again real quick.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so identify important relationships in this situation using the educator role as the primary focal point.
So something I think that's really important first off is under the relationships with parents and families, respecting the cultural beliefs, backgrounds, and differences, and engage in practices that are sensitive to their values and goals. I know it's very important that like we teach the children and teach families that like everybody can help with household chores. Everyone can like play with babies. Everybody can, do yard work, whatever. But at the same time, and this is something I'm learning, is that we have to respect what they already believe in their culture.
Mm-hmm.
We can still introduce these other ways of life to them, but we definitely cannot push it on them. That's definitely not okay.
Yep, agreed. And I think that kind of goes on to the third one, but like that's the major conflict, right? Is that you want to help them to make their family life better, but at the same time, like you have that cultural ethic that you've agreed to where you're going to respect their culture, and so you have that conflict right there.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that are in like the relationships in this study would be like mother to son, father to son, and mother to father, husband and wife. So the application of principles, again, I was with you. I found you have to respect their different cultural beliefs. And also I will support and challenge parents to continue to grow and learn about parenting and their child's development. And I will also advocate for children and youth with their best interests at the same time that I will work with the parents and their family members. See, a lot of these I kind of feel like are contradictory, where you're like, wait a second, like I want to advocate for these children, but like at the same time I have to respect and try to keep them together, And what did you come up with?
I agree. I also along with that, there's another one that said like I'll provide environments like you said that are respectful of children and youth and sensitive to their developmental and individual needs. I don't think that was exact one you read, but I think that's one that's very similar to it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's another one that says I'll provide a program environment that's safe and nurturing to all family members. And I think those are all super important as well. Because we definitely need to make sure that each member of the family feels safe as well. And we need to make sure they know that they're cared about individually.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, in regards to the relationships involved, would it not also include like the child to the individual parents and then like each member of the family and the educator?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great idea. Mm-hmm. With the educator. Mm-hmm. Oops. So how would we, so we identified the contradictions or the tensions. What about like brainstorming possible solutions. So like these are brainstorming a whole bunch of actions that we would take. And this kind of reminds me a lot of our family theories class.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the first thing that comes to my mind, on the very bottom it says household work is not for boys and Somali males have nothing to do with such activities. The general authorities say a lot that traditions of your fathers, we don't necessarily have to support them, and honestly we shouldn't support them all. And it's not to say that this tradition is a bad one, but I do think that's very important that as educators that we put in the influence of, we're equal, we're not equal necessarily, but we're, complementary, like husband and wife. We each have our own separate roles, but that does not mean that we cannot step out and help each other with our roles. You're right. Like maybe your culture not being able to, like men not doing housework is important. That's great. But that does not mean that you cannot support your wife and help her out every now and then when her hands are full. That does not mean that she cannot reach out and help you, with yard work if things get too hard or whatever. And I think just fostering a relationship between the husband and wife, that they're supportive of each other despite what the cultural traditions are.
Yeah. And kind of along those same lines, like I think some ways that I would implement that would be to like actually go in the home and kind of show that new material. Be like, hey, did you know that you can do this? Or, like suggesting the father's involvement in a lot of different ways and seeing how he responds, but kind of trying to implement, like you were saying, those truths while at the same time understanding, okay, like there's still like a family culture, but then it goes back to the ethics that, you will make sure that you teach correct principles, So like it's always the hardest thing for me to know how to not step on toes, but at the same time, because you don't want the father being like, never come back to my house again, right?
Definitely.
And so I'm just trying to like, how would you get that program across without getting him upset?
And I think that's where like we need to go back to research and say, research shows this. Because like there's another line that sticks out to my mind. This is mom steps back when her son enters the kitchen area. Like maybe find research that shows like the effect that the home and the development of the child in the home has on the child's life, or whatever the research you may need, and teach the families, like we understand you have cultural guidelines, and that's extremely important, and we will respect those. However, what can you pull from this to apply to your home to better the relationship between the wife and husband? I don't think that necessarily means like the husband has to do like all the house chores all of a sudden, or like the mom has to teach the son to do everything. But it's like, okay, great. You're not going to do all the house chores. Fine. But what is something you can do to help in this, to help lift the burden off your wife, or to help teach your son? Because like, I believe if the kids don't learn to do housework, how are they ever going to learn? Like, how are they ever going to like have successful lives with their wives or whatever? Their wives are not going to stand up for that. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's always the hardest part, is because in this culture they did, or the culture they came from, but now they're in America where that culture doesn't, So it's like you have to, I don't know, I would almost want to say you kind of have to be willing to change, be willing to understand that in different cultures, like especially here, and we have research that proves that it's not good for families that dominate or that don't allow equal distribution of work, So I think that's a really good idea by like presenting the research. And also I think another good idea is modeling it. When you come over for those home visits, model what it looks like to share responsibility, and different things like that.
Definitely. And maybe the husband could like have one chore he does on a regular basis. Or maybe the son can have his own list of chores that he will do to help.
Yeah, I like that. And
the family can pick what the kid does, maybe.
It's true. See, the family situations are always hard because I feel like there's always one, like either it's usually the parent who really doesn't want to do it, like who doesn't want to be in the class or take counseling. And so, like, how do you get a change when, like, how do you get the desire in them to begin with, you know? I think that's hard.
It definitely is, especially when they're so stuck in their ways.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And you just want to scream at them, right? And you're just like,
Right?
okay, so select one action or combination of actions to use that reflects adherence to the ethical principle. I think we kind of addressed that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the same one as the step 4 one?
Sounds kind of like it.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of like we were saying, you know, modeling, telling, showing research. Okay, so the second scenario in the ethics class, the one about the abusive father.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a tricky one. So the relationships I came up with first were like the mother-daughter, mother-father, father-daughter, educated a mother, educated a father, educator to daughter. Those were the relationships that I got. Did you can you go through some of like the application of principles or any ethics that you're finding with this scenario?
Totally. One thing that sticks out to me is that I will help parents and other family members recognize their strengths, and I have it up on my screen, so it's gonna take a minute. But and work with them to set goals for themselves, their children, and others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that's the first one I see. The father's dominant, and it's good that he's dominant. It's good that he's, the head of the household. He's willing to do his roles. However, he takes a little bit too extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely working with him to see how he needs to recognize the good that he's doing. Because if
Mm-hmm.
all he hears is like he's doing bad, that's not going to help any. That's just going to probably further the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also there's one in here about like encouraging the relationships. Here it is. I'll support healthy interpersonal relationships among all family members. And I think, like maybe the daughter did something to tick the dad off and made him abusive. Maybe he has stress from work. And maybe the wife is, she had developmental delays, or the child has developmental delays, it says. Maybe the mom has she has her own and she has some other tics, whatever it may be. I think they all need to learn to see to respect the good in each other, and they need to learn new ways to handle things, kind of like our stress management workshop we've been working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great idea. I really like that. Something also that I saw in the Code of Ethics was I will follow the mandatory reporting of abusive family behavior in a respectful and prudent manner. Like, I think that's really important because he looks abusive, from the signs of what we are seeing, to make sure that it's reported, it's documented, but also to get inside the home, like you said, to kind of show, hey, you're still a good guy. This is what you're doing right. Let's add on to that, But also to be very involved. The more you can report, I feel like the abuse, the more you can get the family help, because I heard of a case, actually it was my ex-grandmother's case. She got court ordered to take family classes, because she was turned in so many times, and because of that she did, and she was able to learn all this really good stuff, so I think that's really important, is being able to not only get in there but to report the abuse, so that eventually you can get the help you need, or they can get the help they need.
Totally. And I was thinking, I wonder, no, I definitely agree with what you're saying, and I wonder if there's some way, too, we could go in, and we could just, because I feel like if someone were to go in and say, you're an abusive father, he'll be like, what? Yeah. Get away from me, don't talk to me, that would make anyone angry, rightfully so. No one wants to be labeled that. So, if there's some way, the educator could go in and could talk to them about the development of what the needs are for the toddler, what the needs are for the parent, for the mother, Like, how does the father handle those needs? How does the mother react to the needs, you know? And then help them learn for themselves and process for themselves, oh, this is not a good way to handle. How can I do better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's really important. That kind of covers like the step 4. I kind of had the same things as kind of get in there, show him what he's doing right, kind of build onto that. But be very involved, you know, like I have 2 cousins that were in abusive relationships, and the first thing that their husband wanted to do was take them away from society and from family. And so I think you have to be very involved. The more involved you are, the more chances you are to make a difference, and the more chances you are to kind of help teach correct principles.
Totally. I definitely agree. And like kind of going into step 3 as well, there's a hard line because you definitely need to foster that trust with the people. And you definitely need to know, like, I'm here for you. I'm not here just to be a tattletale and to like throw you under the bus and to pull your family apart. Because oftentimes that can result from abusive relationships and CPS stepping in. But that contradicts with being there to support them. Because oftentimes when you will report the family, they'll be upset. They're going to be. But where's the line in like how you foster that relationship with them while also doing the legal, you know, morally correct thing? Like it's hard to find that balance, but it has to be done. I was actually talking to my counselor about that because I'm going to counseling, and I was talking about like abusive relationships and stuff, and he was like, you know, if somebody were to come in with their child who had been abused, and the child's like obviously a minor, and I find out about it, I would have the father, you know, call CPS himself with me in the office. That way he takes up responsibility for it, but at the same time he knows I'm not going to throw him under the bus. He's reporting himself. And so I think taking an approach like that would definitely be the best way to handle it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Definitely. But there are some cases like my cousin's case where the husband went literally crazy, like literally crazy. So like I agree. I think that that's a really good idea, is having the counselor have the abuser call, because that means not only is he taking accountability, but it's like, hey, I'm responsible for this and I want to change,
Right.
you know? And I think that's going to be your most success of changing.
Totally.
Let's see.
I think we've kind of talked about the other 2.
Any other code of ethics that you could see in this case?
Let's see. Let me pull up the list real quick.
I like the one, I will be aware of the boundaries of our practice and know when and how to use other community resources for the benefit of family members. Like knowing your boundaries and knowing when you can step in versus when you can't, you know? Like I feel like life or teaching, like educators, family life educators, have different boundaries than like family members, if that makes sense. And so because of that, you have to be very like on key, I think, with knowing your boundaries, like knowing these ethics and being able to stay within them, because you can get into a lot of trouble. And yeah, so I think that's really important in this case, because it's very easy to want to overstep your boundaries, get like super involved and throw them under the bus, like you were saying, but you can't, you know, like it's not going to help them or you.
Definitely. And you have to like stay professional and not pull in your own emotions, like you're saying. Like I think it'd be so easy, like as somebody who's like super kind and caring about families, it'd be really, really easy to try to like solve the problems and like be their support system 24/7, which is great. Like we need to do that for them. But we can't. And that kind of ties into like, I don't think this was the code of ethic you read, but there's one that says like, we'll know how to provide community resources for the people. And so instead of us stepping in all the time, we were like, okay, so I will be here to help guide your progress. I'll be here to provide resources for you. But these are the resources. These counselors can help you. These specialists can help you. This is what they have to offer. So go seek them. They're professionals. I'm here just to like help you on the way to get started.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And that's the important one. That's what we learned a couple weeks ago. It was knowing like what degree they need help. So if they really just need like teaching classes versus they really need to go into counseling, you know, being able to know that difference.
Definitely, I agree.
Okay, I think we've talked about everything.
Awesome. Any other thoughts you have?
Let me look at the notes I took. No, I pretty much discussed everything I had. What about you?
I think we're good.
Okay, let me stop this.